Welcome, everybody, to the weekend report for April 14th, 2023. Let's talk about what's been in the news this week. We're going to start with the CPI report. Consumer Price Index is Fed's favorite measure of inflation. The headline number month over month dropped from 6% to 5%. So some good movement there. And then the core number, this actually moved up 0.1% from 5.5 to 5.6. But as we've always been talking about, the shelter component continues to be a drag on this number. So let me share with you some of these numbers here. You can see the shelter and shelter year over year continues to be high at the 8% mark. Now, what's interesting to note about this, when we look over the shelter component over the last couple of years, it does appear that we are trending towards a peak here, that we should see some decline now. If you look at real market data, rents are declining. So that shelter component is going to get better. And as we compare the numbers now to what we were replacing a year ago, this will get better. In doing that math calculation, you are going to see that shelter component is going to improve starting next month. So it's going to be very interesting to see what we see in May 10th, May, and specifically May 10th when that gets released. So just want to point that out. Now, within this report, some other things that have impacted that number: airline fares have gone up, vehicle insurance has gone up, and I think you probably noticed this just in insurance cost overall. Those numbers, they're just getting more expensive, so take a look at that. And then used cars and trucks. Now, PPI report came out as well, and that is wholesale inflation. The Feds really don't pay much attention to this number, but the headline number was down 0.5%. The core was down 0.1% month over month, and the year over year number had a significant drop of 1% to 3.4%. But again, Feds don't really pay much attention to this number. So now let's talk a little bit about what the Feds released this week in their minutes. They are now projecting a mild recession for this year. And they did talk about the fact that they do intend most likely to increase the short-term interest rates again for May. They really do need to slow that down, just stop altogether. But they continue to think that they're not getting enough progress in the inflation numbers, so they feel like the interest rate hikes will continue to drag that economy down, which drives us into the recession, which does help bring inflation down. So they are projecting another hike for next month, maybe a quarter. So unfortunate, but what it is what it is. Jobless claims for this week, they were up 11,000 for the initial claims to 239,000 total, but the continuing number dropped 13%. So those continuing to file for unemployment dropped a little bit. The retail sales numbers came out for March. The headline number was weaker than expectation, but the core came out stronger. So that had an adverse kind of impact on the market. And then mortgage applications. We continue to talk about this just because I want you to know what the activity has been for people applying for loans. It gives you an indication of what's going on with the housing market. The applications were up 5.3%. 8% of that was for purchases and only 0.1% for refinances. Now let's go back to a few more slides here, and I want to show you just the amount of buyers that are purchasing with cash. And this is giving you a breakdown all the way from the younger millennials up to the silent generation. And the silent generation, which I didn't know, I've never heard that term before, that's people born between 1920 and 1940. So you can see there at the top there, they make 53% of them purchase outright with cash. And then you continue to go down as we get to the younger generation that's currently purchasing. So it shows the liquidity that the people now have that range in their 60s and 70s and so forth, and those even in their 50s. So something just to kind of keep an eye on. Now let's talk about what is happening today. Fed Waller has made some comments that's making the market a little bit jumpy today. He's made the comments that it doesn't feel like we're seeing enough financial tightening in the market. He feels that the labor market is too strong. and that inflation is just not moving down fast enough, which is all very interesting. And I'm going to show you some slides to explain why I think this is just contradictory to what's actually happening. But they're using this as their basis to continue hiking rates, which is creating kind of a drain on our economy. It's just unnecessary at this point to get us where we need to be. So let's take a look here at these slides. When he talks about the labor market slowing down, or the labor market still being strong, we're actually seeing that it is starting to slow down. This is just back from, if you look at this latest peak here on this top chart, April, this is between January and April, you're seeing that uptick there. You go back to that next little peak right to the left of it, that's from September of last year. So if you go back from September of last year to current, you are seeing that the jobless claims are actually increasing. So these are people filing for unemployment for the first time. Now, if you look at the chart just below this, this is job creations, and you can see that job creations are continuing to decline. We had a little bit of a surge of January of last year up, but we talked about this in the past. This is actually your leisure and hospitality, and we are now seeing that leisure and hospitality number is back to kind of its normal level. So we're not going to see the increase in job creations that we're accustomed to, because that leisure and hospitality, which represented so much of what was being created, will no longer have the significant creations that it has had. And now let's talk about the unemployment rate. There's kind of a misconception on when the unemployment rate is a factor in the economy. People think that the economy is not good when the unemployment rate is high. Well, the actual move into a recession starts when unemployment is at its lowest. If you look at these gray bars in the map, these are all the times we've gone into a recession. And at the start of each recession is when unemployment has been at its lowest. So we are at a very low number right now. We are seeing job creations are starting to slow. We are seeing the number of initial claims for unemployment go up. This is all a sign that the economy is slowing and the labor market is not as strong as what the feds are reading. All right, so now let's talk about inflation now. Let's talk about the fact that they're saying it's not going down. Well, they're upset because it's not going down fast enough, but inflation doesn't happen overnight. If you look at the chart, we are seeing inflation coming down. Since the start of this year, we are seeing the progression come down. This is the CPI and the PPI report. You can see it is declining. They just for some reason have this unrealistic expectation that it should be at 2%. And that's just not where we're going to hit overnight. So again, we just disagree with their assessment of what the market's doing. So now let's take a look at the charts. Right now, we are at 31 basis points down, and this is because of the comments that were released by the Fed today and from the retail sales. This week has been a little bit up and down. We haven't seen a lot of movement either way. We lost some gains. We made up those gains, and now we've lost the gains again. So not a lot of movement in the rates, a little bit of fluctuation, but for the day, we are down. All right, so that is what we've got going on this week. Lots of information to cover. Thank you for tuning in and listening. If you have questions, please do reach out to me. If you have any comments, please share those below. I'll be happy to get back to you and reach out to me with any questions. Thanks again for watching. Please do like and share my videos. Have a great day. I'll see you next week.